Welcome back to the Gospel Fantasy Football Show. I hope you guys had a great week last week. We took the week off, but we are back to you with the heat. And we're gonna get right to it. I'm your host, Zay, the fantasy football fiend. I have my guy, Young Vander, the fantasy Nostradamus. How did the people, my guy?
Hey, what's going on out there?
All righty. So remember, you guys can watch us now on YouTube at the Gospel STP. Again, that's on YouTube at the Gospel STP. And if you have not joined the Facebook group yet, you are missing out. Join the Facebook group, the Gospel Sports Truth Facebook group. With that being said, let's hop right into the news, and then we will get into the main topic for today, which will be the NFC North breakdown. Not a whole lot going on in the news right now. A few camps already took place as far as mini camps, and we will have OTAs starting, I believe, on the 22nd. We'll see how some depth charts and things of that nature end up fleshing out. There are always, unfortunately, some injuries and things of that nature that happen at that time. Some ticky tack, but we've seen some that end up derailing the person for the whole season, and it gives the next man up an opportunity to step up. So, with that being said, just a few things to go over before we get into the NFC North. Anthony Richardson is expected back for training camp. He was dealing with a shoulder injury, won't need surgery, and should be healthy to start the season for the Colts, or to actually for the start of training camp. Are we nearing fearful of maybe one of the, I can't say he's the biggest bust because Trey Lance had to be bigger based on them what they paid to go up and get him. Um, but is he close to that at this point? Is it like this season or bust for him, or could there be another spot where he can maybe come in and do something different? Or are you getting what you got?
Well, I think we're approaching that where some of the coaches are going to try to fix him at this point. I think as far as the Colts are concerned, the right guy's not in the building. So there's
Okay.
going to be some QB guru. You take McVay, who has Stafford, who has a year or two left, right? There's
Yeah.
going to be some teams like that that's notorious for fixing QBs, and somebody's gonna take a chance for sure, and see what they can do. So I would say look out for that. But he's probably going to be on the move at some point to some team, maybe the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe it's going to be one of these teams. Maybe even down there in Jacksonville with Coleman, one of these QB gurus. Maybe backing up Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid. You just never know. I think there's a lot of people that can come in and take them and see if they can, turn here, screw this, move that, and add this, and then see if they, got a better player.
I would say a great spot would probably be New Orleans.
Well, this is my thing. I'm not going to. The
The
reason
reason
why,
I'm saying that is because of the head coach there. We've seen, put it like this.
but we haven't seen him really.
He was the one that turned Dallas into the number one offense like was it like 3 years in a row?
Yeah, but I mean, as far as like taking a product like a Baker Mayfield, taking something that,
A
taking
reclamation project.
taking a Sam Donald, right? Taking this car, this vehicle that was rusted out, and you was like nobody don't want it, and they take it and they go through the vehicle, refresh everything, and now it's a classic. You know what I mean? Now it's that Barrett Jackson going for whatever, right? So those are the reasons why I chose those particular teams, not teams I just feel like can just go and compete for a starting job. I'm talking about places he can go and maybe just rewire everything and then get a new product.
Jackson Dart. There's been mixed reports. I've seen reports saying that he's been doing just fine. He's number 2 on the depth chart behind Russell Wilson, which is exactly where they wanted to be. And then I've seen reports saying that this guy shouldn't have been drafted in the first round at all. Like, in both reports came from reputable sources. So what are we doing right now? Like, is it just hold off and let the cream rise to the top, or is this see if the Dart owner is panicking and saw the article that said he sucked and try to get him in Dynasty, or is this the hopefully the somebody else saw the article that said he was doing just fine and you try to sell him? Like, or what are we doing?
At this point, man, I think a lot of teams are trying to cover up mistakes that they made already. You've seen it live and well in Cleveland, where they know they made a mistake somewhere. The GM made a mistake, and now they're just moving things around to cover up the mistake. And this could be the same thing with a Dart.
We're gonna talk about that in just a second, because some stuff they're doing don't seem to be doing too much covering. It's making a bigger mistake. But
but maybe they bit off more than they can chew. I mean, it seems like the Giants was the one of the teams that was spearheading the trash talk of like a Sanders and to pump up a Dart, but now you got what you wanted. So this is your guy. You have to live with it. You know what I'm saying? Whether he's really ready or really he doesn't look good at this point. I mean, I didn't think the guy looked good going against really good teams. People are going to say, well, he played in the SEC. Fine. But when the greater teams played against Ole Miss, he didn't look that good. He played well against the lesser opponents. So that was just always been my thing about him.
Shedeur Sanders, last QB to get reps. They have Dylan Gabriel getting first team reps. Majority of first team reps going to Joe Flacco. Kenny Pickett is even getting plenty of reps with the first team. Is this a we have to keep up the facade, and to the extent of making ourselves worse than what we already are? Like when does this stop? I don't understand what's going on right now. All the beat writers have said that Pickett is clearly the worst quarterback there. Clearly, he getting first team reps. Shedeur is the last one to get any, and he's been set as the fourth quarterback, the fourth string quarterback as far as the depth chart is currently concerned. I'm not exactly sure what Cleveland is hoping to get out of this at this point.
Well, I'll put it to you like this. One thing I know that shows me that they made a grave mistake is they actually came out and said they're thinking about keeping all 4 quarterbacks. That would be pretty much unheard of, right? To take 4 quarterbacks. Yeah, 4 quarterbacks into a season. That lets me know that we made a mistake. But not only just because, hey, the mistake is not drafting Shedeur in the 5th round. That's the blessing, right? You was able to get this great talent that late. The mistake is we picked Dylan Gabriel in the top 100. The mistake is we traded a pick away to bring in Kenny Pickett. Those 2 mistakes are the mistakes, and that what makes everything look so bad. So the reason why you're seeing like Shedeur not getting any first team reps is because it's like one of those things. We know we gave him that. Oh man, is the now the fans are arguing. Maybe we hearing it from upstairs now, and we're trying to hold out as long as we can. And that's just basically what it boils down to. So when you're talking about, it's unheard of to take 4 quarterbacks into the season.
I'm gonna be honest with you though. For Cleveland, I would drop Kenny Pickett. Like there's no reason to have Kenny Pickett.
They
None.
spent a draft pick. They spent a mid round. Was it a?
Don't
They,
matter. It don't matter. Like that was a horrible decision. But still, um, you don't need Kenny Pickett. Worst case scenario, if you feel that way about the fact that you spent a pick on Kenny Pickett, Miami was going to draft Dylan Gabriel at their pick, the same round that Cleveland did, and then they traded their pick after Cleveland picked him. I'm sure they're still interested. That they want someone that they can kind of give a little bit of tutelage to behind Tua. So maybe you go that route, and you still have Deshaun Watson on the books for another 2 years, I believe it is, whatever the case may be. So whenever he's healthy, you got another quarterback. So everybody can't stay. Like all of them could not have been the right decision. So which one was the wrong decision? And let's move on from that. Or which one can we save face from? That may be Dylan Gabriel based on the fact that you can get a pick back from him. Nobody's giving you the 4th round pick that you spent for Pickett for you to trade him to another team. No one's giving you, like, you would have to cut him for another team to be interested. So yeah, that's interesting. Another little, not a carousel, but another interesting group here we have in Pittsburgh. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is there now, and he will be kind of mentoring, if you will. Will Howard and Mason Rudolph will be the backup for 2025. I think this is a more organic situation. Mason Rudolph doesn't really have much of a contract to speak of. And as long as Will Howard is good enough to keep a job, he'll be the backup. Rodgers will probably be there for 2 years if he chooses to, if there's no injury or whatever the case may be. And then there'll be a natural cessation process there with Will Howard. But I honestly think Will Howard having the opportunity to sit behind Rodgers will work out really well for him. I just don't know if Tomlin will still be there to be the calming force, if you will, for that to be a good situation for younger players. Because if all they do this year is not win, I can see this being the last year that Tomlin is the head coach of Pittsburgh. So what's your overall take fantasy-wise as far as the Pittsburgh QB situation is concerned?
I mean, Aaron Rodgers. What can you say? I really don't know, man. I mean, him and Arthur Smith together. I don't know. You got a guy that loves to pass the ball, which is Rodgers. Now paired up with a guy that like to run the ball, and Arthur Smith. So maybe we'll see some nice spats on the sideline.
One thing that you said last year that I think you may have been a year too early on. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is the year for Pat Frybell. It ain't but so many pass catchers there. He may be the number 2 wide receiver. Yeah. And we do know that if you're a pass catching tight end, that you'll be a little bit of a safety blanket for Aaron Rodgers because he doesn't run the ball anymore unless it's a dire situation. So maybe this is the year, based on the offense and even more so because of the quarterback, in comparison to who the quarterbacks were previously, that kind of had a little bit more get up in their step and really wasn't going to check down as much as the Rodgers most likely will. So, I mean, maybe that's the one thing that can come out of this OC, this quarterback, this style of offense and defense, that you don't really have to pay. I mean, you can get Pat Frymouth for free right now, I'm pretty sure. Like I don't know anyone that's like gonna hard sell you for Pat Frymouth. Like he might be free in some leagues right now.
I may send somebody a trade right now for him. I mean, who knows?
But does that make sense though? I mean, like that could really be, because I mean, we may be talking about like a 3rd round 2026 pick or something stupid, and maybe you throw him a replacement tight end that has a cute name but not really much upside at all, that you were gonna get rid of anyway if you got another tight end.
Right. No, I love it. I like it.
So just things to think about. sometimes you have to, well, not sometimes, most of the times, if you're going to be successful in fantasy, you got to think about these things before they happen. So that way you can be the one with that, autographed card in your hand when it becomes valuable versus the one that wants it and the price is already going up. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. You definitely want to foreshadow, you know, before the news gets out. You know what I'm saying? But that's a good call.
and this wasn't practiced at all, but great transition because another bit of foreshadowing that you did a few weeks ago, and I was a little leery, but as of right now, Miles Sanders over there in Dallas is taking first team reps, and he and Javonte Williams have been getting most of the first team reps. This may be a coin toss, and he's probably going to cost you about as much as Pat Fryer move. Again, it's a lottery ticket. We're not saying that you're going to build anything around these guys, but what we are saying is when these depth charts get filled in and these OTAs come out, and some of these guys that people didn't even foreshadow to have a job, they're now the starter. Well, guess what? That's when you can go ahead. Oh, well, I ain't gonna charge you too much. Go ahead and slide me a second round pick. For someone that you thought probably wouldn't have a job, that's how you start to build your dynasty. You take pieces off of waiver that don't cost you anything, or pieces from other teams that maybe you include some of these guys in a larger deal, and the other team just thinks that they're a throw in right now. But you have a master plan in mind. Those are things that you have to really keep in mind as you go through the offseason. And as pieces move around the chessboard, if you will. But I found that interesting, being that you were speaking on Sanders a few. And honestly, you can get Williams and Sanders and Blue for next to nothing. But someone is going to be running the ball in Dallas. And guess what? When their O line is on point and their pass game is on point, whoever the goal line back is, they eat in Dallas. Like, they have a good offense when everyone's healthy. So, and not to mention the fact that now you have Lamb and Pickens, which means that safety can't cheat. They got to keep their eye on the wide receivers now. And you got a tight end that catches the ball too. So, I mean, this may be a cheap. You may hear these names again. You will hear one of these names again for sure come redraft season, but somebody's going to be a huge value. If you're one of those teams that are low on running back because you stacked up in a position, these are guys that I'm going to want on my bench instead of having handcuffs that I need 3 people to get hurt to be able to get anything out of. Not a whole lot of other stuff going on. Brandon Ayuk is reportedly thriving in workouts, so it's looking like he is looking like the Brandon Ayuk of old prior to the ACL and MCL in his right knee hampering him. He may be a guy that you can get for dimes on the dollar. The last healthy Brandon Ayuk we saw was the number 1 wide receiver for San Francisco. So just saying, he's the guy that they paid as if he was going to be the number 1 wide receiver. So again, just if there's needs there, or if there's a little bit of interest there, take a look at that. The opposite, Keon Coleman has been inconsistent in minicamp, and you may want to go ahead and, if you can get rid of him, do so.
Hold on.
They have other bodies there.
Hold on. Did I not? What I said? Didn't I told you? Didn't I tell people
Yeah.
about Keon Coleman? Okay, thank you.
Sure did.
That's
It's and they have Palmer there. They have Secure there. Who else came in to
Elijah Moore?
Who was it?
Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore. Yeah. Elijah Moore, another guy. This is about to turn into a fantasy value show. Elijah Moore is another guy who had fanfare coming out of college, not so much once he got to the league, but to no fault of his own. He was in Cleveland. Most people that are stuck in Cleveland, other than Jerry Jeudy, go figure, don't do too well at the wide receiver position in Cleveland. But this is a guy that, with that quarterback and with the fact that they really truly don't have a wide receiver 1 or 2, he's another guy that you can get for free right now. One of these lottery tickets are going to pan out, and whichever one pans out, you can go back and get 4 times the value of what you paid 9 times out of 10 for one of these guys that we're talking about. Um, a guy that I did want to ask you about. How do we feel about this marriage between DK and Aaron Rodgers, as far as DK is concerned?
I like it now. I mean, I was feeling I wasn't sure what DK was going to look like, but with Rodgers, they have secretly been working out leading up to this. So I like it. I mean, we did see even with no matter how you feel about Aaron Rodgers or how you feel about the Jets last year, Devontae Adams was a wide receiver one.
Garrett Wilson too.
Do I need to say anything else?
Win-loss record didn't matter for fantasy.
And that's what we're talking about here, right?
Yep.
So now I like DK. I think he's of value being where he's drafted at. As we get closer to the draft, I think his ADP will rise. It probably has risen.
I don't think it'll go up as much as you think, though.
Not a lot. I'm not saying a lot, but it may.
Okay.
Since the news of Rodgers, and as we get closer, it probably has risen a few spots. But I think he's a pretty good value to get to where he is right now. But I think with his ability and with the lack of other weapons around him, he should get. Because one thing about DK, even in Seattle, he hasn't been peppered with targets.
Right.
He's never been that guy. And this may be his opportunity to get those targets, get those 12 and double-digit targets a game. And I like him. I think he could be a low-end wide receiver one, man, real sneaky.
Another couple of values at wide receiver. Josh Reynolds is in the early lead for the number 2 wide receiver role there in New Jersey. Again, a guy that's free. He's probably on your waiver, but he's going to get targets in Jersey. How many and what he'll do with them, we don't know. But if you need a free wide receiver in Dynasty that may turn into a weekly, double-digit point guy based on volume in a PPR type of a situation, that may be a guy that you look at. Same thing looking at Quentin Johnston over there with the Chargers. He's running with the first team. They don't have a whole bunch of talent at wide receiver. Obviously, Lat McConkey is the lead dog there, but he took quite a bit of his reps at wide receiver out of the slot. So Quentin Johnston is the truest outside guy they have. They do have the rookie Trey Harris there. He's another outside guy. They're really who they are hoping are going to be their outside guys, with Ladd being kind of a big slot, almost how you might think of, not in the same type of a role, different offense, but almost how you would think of a Cooper Kupp, being the wide receiver out of the slot, that sort of a situation. But Johnston is, again, another one of those guys that he's 9 times out of 10 going to get the job, because Mike Williams has never been healthy, and that's the guy that would be number 1 in that position if he was healthy. But he's not even ready for training camp right now. He missed June minicamp with an undisclosed injury, so he's injured now again. So I don't see them sitting Johnston, who's the young guy that can turn into something, for the guy that, if things work out well, we would rather him be ready when we need him in the playoffs, versus giving us a hot 4 weeks in the beginning and then missing the rest of the season. So, not a whole lot of other stuff going on as far as the wide receiver position is concerned. Pretty much nothing going on as far as tight end is concerned. So let's go ahead and hop into the main topic of the day, which is going to be the NFC North. And I guess we'll start out with Chicago. No particular order here, but starting out with Chicago, your fantasy relevant players, obviously, Caleb Williams there at quarterback. They have a ton of pass catchers. I'm interested to see how you feel about how that works out for the pass catchers versus how it works out for the quarterback. But DJ Moore is there. Rome Odunze is there. Luther Burden is there. They drafted at tight end Colston Loveland. They still have Cole Kmet. They have DeAndre Swift, who is a pass catching specialist at the running back position. They also did a few things at the with the O line, bringing in Joe Thuney there at left guard. They brought in Drew Dahlman at center, brought in Jonah Jackson at right guard. So they essentially revamped every position that they hadn't addressed with the younger guy in the last couple of years. They still have Darnell Wright there. They have Braxton Jones, but theoretically, this often issued O line may actually be a strength of the team. And I don't know that any quarterback has more weapons. So is this the year that Caleb Williams is a value and you really can't go wrong where you would draft him? And how much you willing to pay for him in Dynasty? Because I think that what we're going to see going forward, especially the biggest change in the offseason being a head coach, with all of these weapons and an offensive mastermind at head coach, like how much are you willing to pay up for Caleb Williams in Dynasty? And how much of a value do you think he's going to be in redraft?
I think Caleb Williams is the feeling you had about Caleb Williams coming into last year. You should feel a lot more of that, whatever that feeling was. Let's not forget who Jared Goff was before Ben Johnson. It's the same movie all over again. This is 2.0. And I mean, we got you talk about the plethora of weapons. You know, that's going to be maybe some of the hardest things to decide on as far as fantasy goes. But one rule of thumb is when you can't decide who's going to get what, get the person that's giving it to everybody. And that's Caleb Williams, right? He should be a QB1 this year, easily. Like, it shouldn't be a no-brainer. I think his floor should be like 7. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
7?
7 or 8 at the worst.
Okay.
If he falls below 8 overall, he had a bad season. That's why I think he should be at, because he's surrounded. Every position is full. And he also has the right guy calling the plays. And he has the skill set to make it all come together. So, and his defense is pretty decent. The Bears' defense is pretty decent. So I think they're going to be able to get him the ball in scoring position, shorter fields, things of that nature. But yeah, I think how you should feel about him in Dynasty, I think you should have him a step or 2 behind Jaden Daniels. That's how he should be. He should be up there because not only he's young, but he's going to be able to grow with a lot of these younger weapons. Aduze is young. They just brought in Luther Burden, you said is pretty young. The tight end they just drafted, young. That
also means they're going to be together for a minute too, without having to worry about money spent.
Absolutely, and their play caller should be there for at least 4 years. You know, if things are going well. So, and he also, you know, is familiar with his division, right? It's the same division. So I think with Ben Johnson, I just think that it's a marriage made in heaven, and he's extreme high value. I tell you what, I like him more than I like Mahomes. So
I can actually see that because Mahomes he's not going to run, and Caleb will. Caleb is going to get you a few touchdowns.
We'll run. He sneaks something.
Yeah. But I do feel like Mahomes will actually have a bounce back year as long as his weapons are healthy and not suspended. But I can see where you're coming from. I can definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah. So however you feel about Mahomes, I think you should have Caleb like the guy right above him. So the final finish should be Caleb and Mahomes. I think they should be right beside each other, and it's all said and done.
So how are you feeling about his weapons? Is everybody else stay away from until you know, or is there value with DeAndre Swift because he's a starting running back and people treat him like he got to play.
Yeah,
I mean you might be able to get him for free.
Because I didn't know how to feel about him coming into this
I
season because
mean,
it seemed like he was in the doghouse with Ben in Detroit. Like, don't forget he was in Detroit and he didn't
yeah.
really get much rock. But it seemed like now it's like circumstance. Maybe he has to play. But if you're in a dynasty league and maybe deep in a redraft,
Wait
um,
a minute. Was Ben Johnson the one that put him in the doghouse?
yeah, he was the guy.
So maybe that's not good then, because they drafted a running back in the OC that put you in the doghouse is not a head coach. So maybe
So let me finish.
actually.
Let me
Oh, I'm
finish.
sorry. Go ahead. My fault. My fault. My
Yeah.
fault.
So, like I say, in the dynasty, of course, but maybe deep in the redraft, a guy that's going to go undrafted. Of course, I know everybody's going to be on Rashawn Johnson, who may be playing more of the role of David Montgomery. But Kyle Monage or Monago or however you pronounce his last name, I think is an interesting prospect, someone you might want to keep your eye on as the season go on because again, we speak about this all the time. And I tell people, pay attention to these new coaches, their guys, the guys they bring in. It's cool. I don't care who's there and who's good and what looks good. And that's all fine and dandy. But when you go out your way to draft the same position that you think the good guys in, it's an alarm. And so he'll be a guy I have my eye on, especially in a redraft. He will go undrafted. Nobody will pay attention to him. And Swift again, no stranger to injury. So I think he may be a sneaky guy. Let's see how the preseason look. Let's see how this guy looks in game. But Kyle Managa, he's right now probably seated like third on the depth chart behind Roshan Johnson. But I think he's a guy of interest as well.
Let's move on over to Detroit. Obviously, we have Jared Goff at quarterback. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, who they were trying to move on, but that didn't end up working out before the draft. Tim Patrick is their second outside wide receiver. At running back, you have Jamar Gibbs and David Montgomery and Sam Laporta at tight end. I am interested to see if there is a step back in general for Detroit as it pertains to offense, as much as there will be a step forward for their defense based on a whole bunch of guys no longer being injured that were injured last year. But if that offensive coordinator is as good as advertised, then you have to lose something if he leaves. And I don't know that things will run as smoothly on offense, or that it might not take a few weeks to figure things out. This may be a team that I actually, especially in redraft, that I trade for a couple of players that maybe don't put up the numbers that we're expecting in like weeks 1, 2, or 3 as they kind of, figure out what's going on, versus drafting them where you would have to draft them to be able to draft them, not knowing how the offense is going to end up hashing out. So that's kind of how I'm looking at Detroit. What's your overall take as far as Detroit is concerned?
Yeah, a few question marks, and again, like you said, they lost the signal caller. This new guy Morton, when he comes in, does he know how to use these players like Ben did? Are we going to see him put Jahmyr Gibbs in the best situation? Are we going to see him use St. Brown correctly? We did see a decline in Laporta sophomore year. Is he going to be a bounce back from where's this thing going to go? So there's a lot of question marks around this team. I mean, the talent is there, of course. I think you should draft the talent where it lies. But don't be surprised, like you said, if there's some slow starts here and things kind of look a little different, because it is different. And I mean, sometimes you could have the same mindset as somebody. It could be the same verbiage and all, but it's a different person seeing it. It's a different viewpoint, and it's going to be a little different. So
I don't think they're going to have the same creativity. That's going to be the biggest thing.
Yeah, and you see a lot of creativity when it comes to Ben Johnson's play caller, right? He did a lot of crazy little things here and there. This is supposed
That's
to
what
be
I expect to see in Chicago too, because of all the. I mean, You got pass catchers everywhere. Like anybody, whoever has the weakest link on defense on them that week should go off. Right? I mean,
so I mean, this should be everybody thinking this is going to be a big year for Jameis.
Oh, and don't forget their center, if I'm not mistaken.
He retired.
Yeah, he retired.
Yeah.
And he was only like 27, 28 years old, something like that.
Actually,
and it's stud. Yeah, for sure. Yep. That matters. That's not nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll have to see how that works. I think that there are truly guys that they're going to work it out, but it's going to look a little different. And you may have some people that'll panic as it's kind of working itself out, and you may be able to take advantage of that. Let's go to Green Bay, and we'll wrap it up with Minnesota. Green Bay has Jordan Love at quarterback. At running back, they have Josh Jacobs, and Marshawn Lloyd is backing him up. Matthew Golden is already slated in the depth chart ahead of Christian Watson. They have Jaden Reed in the slot, and Romeo Doubs as the other outside wide receiver. At tight end, they have Tucker Kraft, and then Luke Musgrave backing him up. What's your take on Green Bay this year? Is it going to be predicated upon injury again? They have a whole bunch of dudes, and they need a whole bunch of dudes because most of their dudes stay injured. So, yeah, what are we looking at?
My opinion is this, man. I think if you're in a fantasy league or in fantasies, people hear me clearly. If it ain't Josh Jacobs or Jordan Love, don't touch nobody. Because who is who? It's like on the Matrix, Mr. Smith. All of them look the same. It's like a bunch of them guys running around. So you don't know if Jaden Reed's going to get off with. I think Jaden Reed may be the most valuable due to his running acclimate. But you got Watson, and then you got the kid that just drafted out of Texas, and then you got.
I think he actually has the best chance of becoming the number one, and he's also going to be the one that don't cost you much money.
I don't see a number one on this team. There is none. There is no number one. So again, I get it. You feel like they got to be a number one because hey, somebody got it. No. There's a bunch of regular guys walking around. There's no alphas in this room. None. There's just a bunch of wild dogs running around. That's it. There's nobody leading the pack. It's just everybody's out there. So you never know from week to week. I think you're going to see different people, even Kraft. Hell, he may be a guy that win you some, have the most receiving yards, touchdowns, or whatever in a week's time. I just think the most consistent guys on this team will be Jacobs. And you got to go with the guy at the helm in Jordan Love. So, and for me, these are the only Green Bay Packers I will have on my team, period. I would not draft any Green Bay Packers unless it's Jacobs or Love. I'm not touching another Green Bay Packer. I don't care if who's up there. I'll take a number 2 for sure off another team, or maybe even number 3 off another team before I touch any of these dudes, because it's just a mystery. You just don't know. You have no idea. And I didn't even go through the rest of the list. You got Dobbs, then you got there's another
Wicks.
kid. You got
Wicks.
You got Wicks. Hell, it's another one. It's and I like him too. It's another one that's behind him. I ain't got the depth chart in front of me.
Who's I think I know you're talking about.
He's gonna have his games too.
He had a couple of games. They drafted Savion Williams.
So they got Bo Melton. So that's another kid.
No, and they drafted another guy, Savion Williams, who's currently
and they brought in
number 2 behind Dobbs. So
and they got McCole Hardman on the team. So
and they got McCole Hardman. Yeah, they got
I'm not
got a lot of dudes. They got a lot of dudes. And Luke Musgrave gets in there every now and then too when he's not injured or whatever the case is.
These are hyenas, man. Have you ever heard of a alpha hyena? No, they're just a running packs and they jump you. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. Not messing with it. So if it's not Love or Jacobs, I highly recommend that you beware, buyer beware. Don't, because you're gonna get your feelings hurt. You get Christian Watson thinking he the number one, and he get hurt the second game. You're gonna be your feelings gonna be hurt. You get the kid from rookie. You thought he was, oh, he drafted. He's the number one pick. You're gonna get your feelings hurt. Again, Jaden Reed would probably be my number one due to his rushing ability. But other than that, nah, not touching it.
Last team up, Minnesota. This team is interesting because the skill positions have guys that are so good that it shouldn't matter who the quarterback is. So I guess my main question is, will it matter?
What's the question?
Will JJ McCarthy matter?
Man,
Like whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. Like will he just be? Will he just prove that it was the team and not Sam Darnold, and you see a lot of what you saw from Sam? Will it be that Sam actually made a come up and JJ ain't what you thought he was? Like, and how does that affect the wide receivers? And how does that affect the
right.
pass catching running back coming out the backfield, being Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason backing him up? However, that ends up fleshing out. We obviously we already know about Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison.
Yeah,
And then you have Jalen Naylor there, TJ Hawkinson at tight end. But does the quarterback matter when you have these pieces around him?
yeah, I'm kind of afraid of McCarthy, to be honest with you. I know he was the rookie, the big time rookie that wooed the draft board because initially he wasn't supposed to be that high of a quarterback pick. But due to Harbaugh and all of that, they bumped him up. But for that reason, I have CeeDee Lamb in front of Justin Jefferson on my board. You know, I dropped JJ due to that. And I know people think, well, Sam Darnold did it. Yeah, but I think Sam Darnold is better than McCarthy. You know what I mean? That's just for my take. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know what his kid. This is essentially his rookie season, right? And he's coming off an injury. This is his rookie year. I don't know what you're gonna get, and I don't want to mess with it. I'm afraid, and I don't like it. Of course, Jettas, he got the talent. You think he could probably play with anybody at quarterback. That's the feeling. But if there was a small decline in his play, I wouldn't be surprised. Because watching him at Michigan, you know what I'm saying? Like you watch that type of football being Ohio State.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they won games, this and that, but it's more of a grinded out. He'll make the big throw here and there when it needs. But he did this.
That was more so on Michigan though, not on his talent per se.
Granted, that Harbaugh, I get it, but I wasn't in love with him as a quarterback coming out, throwing the ball. And I get it. Harbaugh wanted to run the air out the ball, and due to that, there's going to be less passes being thrown around. But I don't know.
So
Still, I think you should draft. You still draft Justin Jefferson in the top 2 to 3 wide receivers, I'm sure. But for me, I got Lamb too. But I think you draft them at, per usual. There's a few guys actually I feel more comfortable playing in front of Jefferson as far as fantasy, and Nico Collins would probably one. I think if Nico Collins can stay healthy, he could be the overall wide receiver one. If he can play a full complement, I think he could be overall number one. That's just how good he is, and he has a better quarterback than Jefferson. And the same for BTJ, who I think is going to challenge the Triple Crown this year. That's just like my, shocker thing. So, but again, Aaron Jones, I mean, if you get him, you may want to get Mason because he's no stranger to injury. I think these guys must come together. Don't get half Jones and don't have him. You setting yourself up at this point. But
I want to see if I can make you see this situation from a different light.
Okay.
And it don't even have nothing to do with JJ, honestly. It's in spite of JJ.
Okay.
What I mean by that is Sam Howell, the backup quarterback for JJ McCarthy, didn't have nearly the weapons that are in Minnesota. And through the first 6 weeks, season before last in Washington, he had the most passing yards of any quarterback. The reason why I bring that up is Minnesota's worst case is they have a gunslinger. If JJ ain't what they thought he was, they have a guy that can throw the ball. And they have the wide receivers that can go get it. That's not going to be a problem. So I don't think that JJ can mess this up but so much before a guy comes in that won't mess it up at all. So yeah, I feel great about the weapons, honestly.
The capital you spent on McCarthy, he's not going to play 3 games and you bench him. Like, they're going to give him the opportunity to go out there and really.
I hear you.
So you may not.
But he was supposed to sit for a year before he got injured. So it wasn't like they brought him in saying, "Oh yeah, you're the guy. We're gonna put you out there off top." Like, he was supposed to actually hold a clipboard for a year, which he couldn't do because you couldn't do half of the stuff that you would have been trained on if you weren't injured. So I don't know that it isn't still possibly a part of the process if what they thought he picked up, not actually being able to practice, wasn't picked up. Because one thing about it, when you paying them wide receivers as much as you're paying them, let's be for certain, their voice in the room is going to be as loud as the coach. So I believe that Howell wasn't brought in by mistake. He's the emergency exit. Let's see what it could be. Something as simple as Howell coming in the second quarter of a preseason game and doing 3 times as much as JJ did with the starters, with the back. It could be something that simple that gives him the reps with those guys. If he gets the reps with the starters, like, the starters will make sure that he's the starter if he gets the reps with them. Right? That's how much I don't think JJ can mess it up. Either he'll be good to great and it won't matter, or they have a guy behind him who has already shown himself to be good to great with a lot less, with a much worse situation.
I don't think we're going to see him at all unless an injury happens. I mean, you spend a first-round pick on a guy, he's going to have to really, to get off that field, he's going to have to get carried off. They got too much investment.
I hear you, but that wasn't the plan when they drafted him.
No, well, they drafted him to be the future. They just brought in Darnold as a bridge, but the bridge season is gone this year too. So even though he was injured, he did learn on the sideline. But this is the year for him. This was supposed to be his year anyway.
But supposed to be, but if he didn't pick up what was needed, I don't see them throwing away a year when they're right there on offense and defense just so he can come along. I don't see them throwing away a year for him. I don't see them being allowed to do so for him if he don't get out there and do what he got to do.
Hey, they spent the draft capital to get him. This is their guy. This is supposed to be their franchise guy.
I hear you, but it wouldn't be the first time we saw something like that happen.
Sam Howell is what I talked about earlier tonight. He is Darnold. He is Richardson. He is Baker. He's one of those guys that same coach I just talked about in Minnesota feel like he can fix.
Yeah, I agree.
So he went to Seattle.
But the difference is Howell wasn't broke.
Yep.
The only thing that messed Howell up is the fact he didn't have an O-line, and he still had the most passing yards of any quarterback for the first month and a half of the season.
Howell didn't look good in Seattle. Let's not forget that. He didn't look good in Seattle. When given opportunity, he did not look good at all. So
that's not true.
Howell, yes, it is true.
That's not true.
What would you?
I'm telling you, he had the most passing yards. Now, I'm not talking about real world NFL. You can't do better. I'm talking about when he had a similar offense to the one that he's about to be in.
But even in Washington with the enemy, he had a lot of yards, touchdowns, but he had ass of turnovers as well. He threw a lot of picks
Because he didn't have an O line, and he only had one wide receiver.
I'm just saying he was very Jameis Winston-ish. So
that's great for fantasy. I like that comp. Yeah, for fantasy.
That's fine for fantasy, but I'm talking about as far as
that's what we talking about.
No, but if it would take an injury. That's what I'm saying. As far as real football, it would take an injury for that to be a play.
But see, that's what I'm saying. That's why I feel that the worst case scenario for the weapon, I don't have full confidence in JJ, but I feel like the worst case scenario for the weapons in Minnesota is they keep trucking along. Maybe Addison, maybe he loses a step just because I don't know if JJ if he's a quarterback capable of having 2 number 1 receivers. I don't know that. And they may run the ball a little bit more too, bringing in Mason, and maybe that is the straw that kind of stirs the Kool-Aid as far as volume decreasing for some of those pass catchers. But outside of that, I guess what I'm saying is I don't see the quarterback position messing it up for everybody else. I guess that's what I'm saying, more than anything else. Next week, we will be going over the NFC South, and then from there, we'll be hopping into the AFC. But make sure that you subscribe or follow, join the Facebook group. Hit us up on YouTube as well. We will keep bringing the heat. Make sure that you have thought about all the different angles, and then you do what's best based on all the information that you know. For this week, that about wraps it up. So remember, always tell the truth and nothing but the truth. We out.